Have you quickly found out how stressful organising a testimonial can be?
Yeah, oh mate, yeah. If I had hair, I wouldn't have any now. I talked to my wife about it yesterday. It's like organising a wedding, but
What sort of things have you had to sort of contend with that you never thought you'd have to contend with previously?
Well, there's a lot more that goes into it, obviously, than what you actually think. You know, we just turn up and play the game at the weekend, but I suppose it's all the little bits from stewarding and staffing to tickets and hospitality and table plans and stuff like that. So, but I've had a lot of help from Ellie in the office there. So yeah, the club have been great with me in that sense.
You've not had any issues over the table plans, have you? Like who sits next to who?
No, not as yet. They just get sat where they get, and then that's it. Yeah, they can contend with that on the day.
Does it feel like 10 years?
No, mate, it's absolutely flown. I'll be honest with you. Obviously, I'm knocking on a little bit now, but I still feel, you know, like I'm young in the head, and like I said, mate, it's absolutely flown as a time. Probably because I've enjoyed it that much.
How have you changed as a player over the time? Would you say?
I think probably when I was younger, you know, it took me a while to get used to the speed of Super League and the physicality of it, and I was probably a little bit of a late developer. Obviously, in the front row and playing in the middle, it's tough. It's tough there. So I think I've just matured and learned my role, and you know, I'm not a flashy player by any means, and but I think I do the little things right, and what my coaches ask of me, and so I think that's you know where I've made my career really.
Do you remember back to when you first started and whether there were any sort of nerves or doubts as to whether you'd actually crack it, you know?
Yeah, mate. You know, when I was younger coming through, I spent quite a bit of time out on loan at various clubs, which were really beneficial for me personally. But, you know, there's always a doubt in the back of your head that, you know, is it for me or am I going to crack this full-time, you know, rugby league gig? Fortunately for me, unfortunately for Craig Euby, he fractured his kneecap against St Helens, and sort of that was my sort of breakthrough. I'd been in and out with the team previous to that, played a few games here and there, but like I said, unfortunate for Chubbs, he'd done that, and fortunate for me, that was my sort of breakthrough year, and I've never really looked back since.
You mentioned that to Chubbs at all, saying thank you for fracturing your kneecap.
Yeah, no, not I hadn't, but yeah, cheers, Chubbs. That would really help my career.
On a wider scale, how would you say the game itself has changed over the course of your career?
Yeah, obviously the rule changes that have come in have really sped the game up, and you know, you look at front rowers and middles now compared to sort of a few years back. Middles were doing 15-20 minute stints. You know, they were a lot bigger. You look at the middles now, and they're fitter and some are faster than the outside backs, mate. So yeah, it's obviously tough in the middle. They've reduced the interchanges, so you have to be fitter, you know, and knock them big minutes out when needed.
Do you look at some of the middles that you say are faster than the outside backs? You think, Christ, what have you been eating?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, there's, you know, I'm definitely not one of them. I'm not saying that I am, but you do look at some of the middles in Super League, mate, and you just, you know, they are pure athletes. And like I said, you're in the coalface of the game for however long you're on the field, and middles are doing repeated efforts, and yeah, it's tough in there, mate. You know, you're sticking outside back in there. They only last 5 minutes. They're only good for one sprint. So,
have you sort of started to focus on what you do after your career? Because I think I had a look on. It might have been your LinkedIn profile the other day. I think you're director of about 4 different companies, aren't you?
yeah. So, me and my wife have got a few properties that we look after. You know, we invested some money into property. Probably like just a little bit of a fallback plan. Yeah, and then I've got a couple of other things, you know, that I'm working on outside of the game. So it were really important for me to sort of set myself up for, you know, when that time does come, when I'm hanging my boots up, and I can sort of try and make the transition as smooth as possible.
it's a lesson perhaps for all players really to get yourself sorted with something else, I guess.
Yeah, mate. There's loads of help coming in now for the younger lads or lads that are, looking at retiring or coming to the back end of their career. RL Cares have come in and offer grants for various courses that players want to do. So, that's a massive step in the right direction, because unfortunately we step away from rugby and some players can find the transition hard, and you go from earning decent money to sort of overnight that's all took away from you. So yeah, if anything, it's definitely beneficial for players, young and old, regardless of where they are in their careers, just to take advantage of that.
Congratulations on your testimonial. I hope it all goes really well for you, and you make a few quid out of it, mate. That'd be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just 10 years, is it? You made your debut in 2007 against Castleford Loch Lane, I think it was, in a cup competition, wasn't it? When Castleford were actually, for a brief period, in the Championship as opposed to the Super League at that time, and you were only 17 at the time.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, so I think that's probably why we managed to draw Loch Lane. But it was a funny old game to say that it were an amateur team, and obviously the Cass being Cass, there were a fair old crowd here, and I was speaking about it the other day. Craig Jeffels, who used to be the commercial manager here, he actually played for Loch Lane that day.
Right.
Oh yeah.
I might dig out the match report from the League Express of those days and see if you get a mention, mate. See if you didn't score. You didn't score a try, I don't suppose, did you?
No, don't be silly.
Did you look very different then to what you do now? I assume you had a bit of hair back then, did you?
Yeah. I think the hair's transferred from my head to my face. So
yeah. Brilliant. And the other remarkable thing, well, not the only remarkable thing, but one of the remarkable things about your career is that you actually played for the United States in 2007 against Cumbria, didn't you? And I think you actually, unlike the Loch Lane thing, I think the boot was on the other foot in that game. The team got a bit of a tanking. How did you end up playing for the United States, and how come you only ever played one game for them? That's what I'm curious about.
Yeah, I get asked about this a lot to see if it's actual fact or it's just someone that's written on my Wikipedia. But yeah, I did. We played against Cumbria. A fella who used to be here, called Mick Robinson, they were the football manager at the time, an Aussie fella.
Oh, I know. I used to know him. Yeah, I've not spoken to him for many years, but I don't know if he's still around.
Yeah, he was the team manager of the USA, and obviously I was just coming through, and I just had a phone call one day, and he just said, "Do you fancy playing?" And I was like, "Well, I will, but I haven't got no allegiance to obviously America." But some miraculous way he winged it round, and yeah, he was having a game. But yeah,
it was a bit like that was Mick Robinson. Yeah.
Fair old experience for a 17-year-old.
Yeah, but you never got invited to play. I mean, you never managed to unearth an American grandparent, presumably.
No, mate, no.
Right. And I mean, you've been a one club man all your life, really, apart from having gone out on loan and dual registration a few times earlier in your career. I mean, did you always intend to be a one club guy? Did you ever? I mean, have you ever been tempted by other clubs? Because over the years, you must presumably have had approaches from other clubs in Super League and elsewhere, perhaps.
Yeah, mate. I make no secret of I love this club and love the town, and I've absolutely loved every minute playing for this club. There were probably one time when I had a chat with St George, but literally just a chat.
How long ago would that have been? Presumably about 10 years or so, would it?
Yeah, it would have a fair while back. But yeah, mate, like I said, I've never really wanted to stray far. I've just alluded to. I absolutely love this club and the history of the club. I'm proud to have been able to achieve what I've done here and play for this long and play this many games at this club. So there's probably been brief chats, but that's literally as far as it's gone.
Yeah. And obviously, hopefully, you've got a few years to go yet as a player. But obviously, at some point, you'll retire. Would you want to continue with the club? I mean, it sounds to me as though, what you were just talking about to Gary about, having outside business interests, which is, very smart thing to do. You'd probably be focused on those rather than wanting to be a rugby league coach or whatever. But it would be, would you want to continue a role with the club in some other capacity, perhaps when you eventually stop playing?
Yeah, potentially that could be a conversation that we have as when it comes to the time that I hang the boots up. I've got no real desire to be a coach or be involved in that side of the game. So, but if not, if I have to step away and retire, I'll be coming down here as a fan. That's for sure.
Yeah, and you've obviously had a few coaches since you've been. I think Terry Mattison was in charge when you first started, wasn't he? And then I think Ian Millwood came along for a fairly short period and was succeeded by Darryl, of course, and obviously now Lee Radford. So that's actually over that period of time. That's a fairly modest number of coaches, isn't it, compared to some other clubs? But did you look back? Did each coach when he came in make some big changes? Did they all sort of give you some advice on how they wanted you to play and so on?
Yeah, obviously Terry had me as a pup, so I come through the system here and got promoted. Terry gave me my debut, which I'm obviously grateful for. When Terry was leaving, he made sure that I got sorted out at the club for the new coach coming in. As you mentioned, Basil come in for a period of time there, and he didn't really know much about me as a person or a player, but I ended up playing every game for him. I never missed one game that season.
Really? I didn't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, played every game. Yeah, and then obviously Darryl come in and he had me for the bulk of my career. Outstanding coach. Probably brought the best out of me as a player. And then obviously Radders has come in, totally different style of coaching, but a really enjoyable one. I probably had a frustrating year personally last year with injury, and I missed quite a bit. And I think the club were probably in a little bit of a transition period, getting used to what Radders wants and stuff like that. But I've had a really good pre-season. I understand what Radders wants from me as a player, and I think I've applied myself through pre-season. So I've not missed a beat this pre-season. I'm fit, I'm fresh and ready to go, and can't wait to rip in, mate.
And you're in good nick in health terms and so on. No injury niggles or anything like that at the moment.
No, touch wood. There's nothing. I've not been pulled up or anything.
Good.
I feel fresh, feel ready to go, mate. I can't wait for Sunday.
It would be great to go through a season without any, every player gets knocks, don't they? As the season goes on, but it would be great to try and avoid that if you possibly can.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, I'm out of contract this year as well, so. But yeah, fingers crossed, mate. Can have a good year. Training's been outstanding. We've come together as a group. The new signings that have come in have, really impacted on the squad, and we can hopefully see the fruits of that labour come Sunday when Huddersfield come down here.
I was going to say, obviously, Huddersfield, it's a pre-season game, so we can't jump to too many conclusions about it. But there've been some really quite interesting pre-season results so far, including, one or two teams that have gone to Featherstone and have, including you, who, didn't win there, and Hull KR got spanked by them as well. But I mean, I think it's your last pre-season game, isn't it?
Yeah.
Before the season starts. So it's when it does start getting a bit serious, isn't it? Now. So I mean, it would be nice to get a win, not least for your testimonial on Sunday. The fans will be a lot happier and hopefully a bit more generous if you do win your testimonial game.
Yeah, mate. We have played Featherstone obviously in that New Year game. We're quite a youthful squad. played Whitehaven on Sunday. Had a decent run out there. You know, felt a burn on the lungs, and we took a bit more of a first team sort of string squad. And then, you know, looking at this Sunday, I think you know, we'll be going as strong as we can. Really, there's probably no better test than Huddersfield. They've recruited really well. I think it's their first pre-season game, as they had the previous one cancelled. So, you know, I'm sure they're chomping at the bit. And like I said, it's going to be a stern test for us, and one where we can really gauge it where we're at coming into the season.
Yeah, well, I hope you get a big crowd coming up. And finally, I mean, obviously you've played with some really fine players in your time at Castleford. Which players stand out, either, you know, past ones or current ones, who you've really enjoyed playing with, and whose skills you've really admired?
Yeah, well, I was thinking about this the other day. It's weird. I think I've been involved in teams where Cast players have won like 5 Man of Steel awards. You know, I think Daz Clark got it, did he? Yeah.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
Rangy
And the young, I think he won the Man of Steel and the young player in the same year, if I remember rightly.
Daz, Rangy Chase, Macca, Gailey, and I'm sure there were one more. No,
I can't. I'd have to check, but
like I said, yeah, them, you know, that's a feat in itself. I think, to be involved in teams where you know, players have won the best accolade in the league, from this club especially. You know, it's you wouldn't really thought that. So to be involved with players like that throughout my career has been you know, absolutely awesome.
Yeah. And as I say, I mean, one of the players I most admire is Shenny, who you know, had a long career here with a short spell at St Helens. But you know, I always wondered how the club had performed when he retired, if I'm honest about it, because it was one of those guys you never thought he would retire somehow. You know, you probably thought he'd play forever, but he didn't, clearly. And you know, it took a bit of replacing. Yeah,
just in terms of leadership, influence on a team, you know, there probably weren't many. I couldn't think of any other players who I've been involved with like Mick. You know, he was an unbelievable leader, unbelievable speaker. A modern day Cast legend, if you like, and a real privilege to be able to share the field with him while he were here, mate.
It would be nice to see him back at the club one day. I would have thought, you know, I mean, he's obviously doing a pretty good job with Hull at the moment, in terms of bringing younger players through. So I understand, you know, and certainly to judge by some of the kids they've got coming through their grades, it'd be nice to see him doing that for Cast one day, I would have thought.
He'd be an asset to any club, I'm sure he would. And that you could always see Mick Duckley going down that route of coaching, because he just commands respect, and you know, when he talks, you listen. You know, he knows the game inside out. He's a smart footballer, so I'm sure he is doing great things at all. But like you said, mate, if Cass could snag him and come back here, that'd be absolutely a great asset for the club.
Yeah. Final thought, just on the Castleford supporters and the, you know, the Castleford Stadium. You know, long before you were born, I was going down. I was obviously brought up a Wakefield fan, so I had some fairly hairy moments at Weldon Road when I was a kid, coming down and shouting for Wakefield. And you know, in those days things were a bit rough, really. But you know, it was always great fun. But the fascinating thing is that the stadium hasn't changed much since I was about 5 years old, which was a long time ago. And it you know, there are signs now that, you know, the planning application's been made, and hopefully plans are in place that will secure, you know, a redevelopment, or at least a partial redevelopment. You know, do you feel sort of sentimental about the stadium as it is now, and or are you as keen as many other people are to see it being developed and being modernized, probably a bit more than it is?
Yeah, I suppose there's no better atmosphere down here on a Sunday when it's packed out. The experience that you get, the fans, they're absolutely amazing. And, you know, but I think the town probably deserves that. And for the club to go to the next level, that's probably what's needed. So it's only going to be beneficial for the club to hopefully get that stadium or the redevelopment of Weldon Road, mate, because I think that's the next level for the club, is to try and upgrade the facilities, and then, you know, we can replicate that on the pitch as well.